Welcome back to OneDeepVoid. If you've enjoyed our dark explorations, don't forget to subscribe and like. Tonight, we're stepping into the silent corridors of funeral homes where the veil between life and death is at its thinnest. So settle in as we uncover the secrets whispered amongst the departed. Let's get started. I've worked as a night watchman for years, familiar with every spooky story you can imagine. Nothing scares me. I've been in all sorts of places. Graveyards, mansions, abandoned warehouses, you name it. But there's only one place that truly terrified me. A funeral home. On my first day there, a girl who was showing me around hinted she had something important to tell me, something to be kept between us. It struck me as odd because I'm not exactly a charmer or a ladies' man. I was worried she might suggest something shady, so I cautiously approached her as she was packing up to leave. "So what did you want to tell me?" I asked. She took me aside and shared something bizarre. "Don't tell anyone, but when I started here 2 years ago, I was given a warning I now pass to you. It's not from the owners, but from fellow workers. They say never to go near the public bathroom after midnight. I don't know if it's true. I've never tested it because I respect the rule. Every night shift worker here knows it. No matter what you hear, do not enter that bathroom and you'll be fine. But if you do, it won't be a good night for you." I've heard all sorts of stories, nothing fazes me, so I brushed it off thinking it was just a tale to scare the new guy. "It's one of those stories to make fun of me later. I don't believe in that stuff," I told her. She insisted she was just passing along the message as it was given to her, leaving it up to me to believe it or not. I should have listened, but I didn't. Around 1 a.m., I was patrolling the ground floor near that bathroom and heard the sound of a faucet turning off and a door opening. Only 2 of us were in the building, me and a guy monitoring security cameras, who I had seen in the camera room just 5 minutes earlier. It didn't make sense for him to be in that bathroom, especially since there was one closer to the camera room. But facing challenges head-on is my job, so I went to check. I saw shoes and the bottom of suit pants under a stall door. I coughed, expecting a response, but got none. I knocked on the door, growing increasingly authoritative and annoyed. Suddenly, the door swung open on its own, revealing an empty stall. I checked the floor. No one was there. I thought maybe the person had climbed up, so I threw open the door fully, but the stall was empty. The door had never opened on its own before. I walked away feeling a mix of confusion and curiosity, but not yet fear. That feeling changed fast when I heard the bathroom door behind me open and close by itself with a quiet bang. I quickly turned around, thinking I'd see someone, but the hallway was empty. Nobody was there. Still, I felt like I wasn't alone. It seemed like someone was very close to me, breathing on my neck. This spooky feeling stayed with me, sticking to me like a shadow as I walked through the not-so-bright halls of the funeral home. No matter where I went, it felt like I was carrying something you couldn't see, something that kept following me quietly. When I tried to take a little break, it was as if I could hear someone breathing right next to my ear, very softly. It sounded like sadness and made the night scarier, making me feel a fear I just couldn't get rid of. The next morning, I left my keys and uniform and never returned to that cursed place. I've worked many jobs, but nothing like this had ever happened to me.
Can you see me behind you?
I discovered I have a gift and a curse tied to a very specific room in a funeral home, a place that terrifies me but also brings peace. For almost 20 years, I've had this peculiar experience that's been haunting me ever since I set foot in a funeral home. As a kid, I was just like any other. I went to school, had an older brother, parents, a regular working-class family with its ups and downs, but nothing out of the ordinary. Then one day, fate led my dad and me to a funeral home for something work-related. While walking through the main hallway, I peeked into a room that caught my eye. It was adorned with red curtains and had a theater-like ambiance, something I'd never seen before, especially in a funeral home. This image of the room, with its 2 candelabras and no one inside, just stayed with me.
Who are you?
Years passed and strange things started happening, but not in the real world, in my dreams. Suddenly, I'd find myself in that same room, but it wasn't empty anymore. There were 5 open coffins, each with a thin shelf between them holding a white candle. What caught my attention the most was one coffin that contained a wooden cross, one I recognized from my grandfather's house. This wasn't a scary dream, but it left me anxious because of the unfamiliar, unsettling setting. Fast forward, and the dream's imagery stayed vivid in my mind. Then, a month after the dream, my grandfather unexpectedly passed away. The dream, the coffin, and the cross in it came rushing back to me, filling me with guilt, as if I had somehow known. Years later, the dream revisited me, but with a change. 2 of the coffins were now closed, and something drew me to the second one. Inside, I found a pink ribbon, something I couldn't place until tragedy struck 2 months later. My cousin Alicia, who was going to a dance competition, died in a car accident. She always wore a pink ribbon in her hair, the very same one from my dream. It was then I realized these dreams were warnings. When I turned 20, the dream came again, but this time, I found my Aunt Lisa and Uncle Matt's glasses in 2 of the coffins. I understood they were next. Instead of fearing the premonition, I embraced the time we had left, making an effort to be there for them, to make their last days meaningful. In June 2020, during the pandemic, knowing what was coming, I called them, not to alarm or upset them, but to tell them how much I loved them. My uncle opened up, thanking me for being there for them after my cousin's death. He told me that I had been like a son to him and my aunt, and that they were thankful I was there for them after my cousin's tragedy. They passed away from COVID-19 shortly after. To this day, I haven't dreamed of that room again. There's one coffin left, presumably for another family member. While the thought saddens me, I'm grateful for the warning. It's given me the chance to appreciate my relationships and reconcile with loved ones. It hurts, but I'm thankful for the opportunity these premonitions have given me to mend and strengthen my bonds with my family. I have a story to share. It's about a significant experience I had, focusing on the essence rather than the seemingly implausible details. While studying, I juggled various jobs, prioritizing free time over salary, which led me to work for a friend of my dad's who managed one of the oldest, most prestigious funeral homes in the city. Surprisingly, working there didn't bother me. I endeavored to lighten the heavy burden for people during such tough times, being as helpful as possible to ensure they had no concerns beyond mourning their loved one and beginning to heal. I naturally sought the right moments to approach people, and I did well, thanks to my sensitivity. My boss appreciated this quality, though it made it hard for me to fit in with my colleagues, who were encouraged to emulate my approach. This isolation pushed me to focus entirely on my job, spending nights at the funeral home to assist those in need. One night, when my boss was absent, I managed a small service for an infant, attended only by the immediate family and a few close friends. As the night progressed, they left, informing me they'd return in the morning. Accustomed to families staying overnight, I respected their different customs. With the room now empty, I checked the other rooms to see if anyone needed assistance and noticed a service for a young girl that was winding down, leaving only a few people. A particular elderly lady caught my attention. Her way of mourning seemed desperate, almost as if she was struggling to breathe. Dressed elegantly, signifying wealth, her profound sorrow and solitary position at the back struck me. I contemplated how to offer support without intruding, considering bringing her water or calling someone for her. As I approached, I couldn't find Karen, the usual attendant, but saw a man near the casket giving me a look before turning back. I took a seat closer to the elderly lady, now able to see her wrinkled hands covering her face as she wept. Despite her elegant attire, her grief was palpable. As I moved closer, she turned away, now sideways from me. I contemplated her silver curly hair, realizing she was indeed very old. Her sorrow echoed through the funeral home. Karen called me for a break, suggesting we could use a half-hour rest, but I was concerned about the lady. Upon returning from our break, the elderly lady was gone. I assumed she had joined the family by the casket, relieved she wasn't alone anymore. Later, as we were about to leave the room, curiosity drew me back to the casket. I couldn't see the face from where I stood, but the silver curly hair and the elegant black blouse matched that of the elderly lady I had seen crying earlier. I didn't dare look at her face, fearing I had seen it before. That night made me realize it was time to find a new job, even though I stayed until my contract ended. The realization that the funeral home was a place of profound encounters, some beyond my understanding, stayed with me long after I left.